Okay, guys, we are in Algebra 2. Algebra 2, Mod 8. Today is Thursday, April 30th, last day of April. Tomorrow's May 1st, so we're getting there. Hang in there. You're doing fine. You can motivate yourself to keep watching a little 15-minute presentation and keep learning some things, getting you ready for next year. The year's not over yet. Don't quit on me. Keep learning 15 minutes a day, big deal. And we'll be okay, especially this chapter. It's not any algebra involved, at least not a whole lot. It's more number crunching because we're going to attack a topic called sequences and series. I don't think you've had this before. You might have been briefly introduced to it in Algebra 1 or even in middle school math, but not to the depth or detail we're going to do. It's a nice little 5-day unit on, again, sequences and series. Really, it's pattern recognition. So, Algebra 2, Mod 8. Today is Thursday. In the top left corner of your notes, put 4/30/20, Thursday, April 30th. The title says, now it looks like arithmetic sequences. Don't call that arithmetic, call it arithmetic. We're going to look at what's called arithmetic sequences. Arithmetic sequences today. And actually, start by putting in your notes this little star saying, look at each sequence and see if you notice a pattern. Okay, there, you can see it on your screen. Write that on your paper first. Look at each sequence, look at it and think about it, and see if you notice a pattern. This is going to be pattern recognition. It's kind of interesting and different than anything we've done. But let's look at the following 4 problems. I'm going to ignore that note underneath them for a second because I want you to look at all 4 of these. If you want to go ahead and write them down, that's fine. Obviously, you should. Those are our 4 examples that we're going to work with. First one says 2, 5, 8, 11, 14, ... 19, 14, 9, 4, -1, -6, ... 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3, 3.5, ... 4.5, 3, 1.5, 0, -1.5, ... Do you notice a pattern on each of these? In other words, if I said, hey guys, what's the next number? Could you find it in each one of the sequences? Okay, we're going to teach you to look for certain things in patterns this chapter. And the first most basic pattern, I think it's pretty obvious, isn't it? Even if you're terrible at math, wouldn't you be able to figure out the next number in this first sequence? Look, guys, 2, 5, 8, 11, 14. If I said describe what's happening, don't tell me the next number yet. Describe what you see. If I'm starting with 2 and I add 3, I get 5. Plus 3, I get 8. Plus 3, I get 11. Plus 3, I get 4. Oh, it looks like I'm adding 3 to the previous number each time, right? So what I want you to do, now look at number 2, instead of adding 3, now I know what you're going to be tempted to say on number 2. You're going to be tempted to say, hey, we're subtracting 5. Never say subtract. If the numbers are getting smaller, we must be adding a negative number, agreed? So just like number 1, you guys said, let's add 3, add 3, add 3. Here I want you to say, add -5, add -5, add -5, add -5, add -5. Oh, number 3, it looks like we're what? Adding 0.5 each time? And on sequence number 4, what's it look like we're doing to get from one number to the next, to get from one number to the next, to get from one number to the next, to get from one number to the next? It looks like we're adding, what, -1.5, aren't we? So guys, anytime the next number in a sequence is found by adding some number each time to the previous number, that's what we mean by an arithmetic sequence. So, go ahead and put the word arithmetic on your paper. And arithmetic sequence is a sequence where, and then write down this official definition, the next number is found by taking the previous number and adding the common difference. And I've underlined the word difference twice because that's going to be an important letter in the first formula I'm going to create for you, okay? So write that definition again. I'll give you a second here. The next number is found by taking the previous number and adding the common difference. So if we go back to these four real quick, number one, write D equals, that is an arithmetic sequence of numbers, and the common difference was what? 3, wasn't it? Number two, it's an arithmetic sequence whose common difference was what? -5, wasn't it? Here, the numbers are getting bigger and bigger, but only by what? 0.5 each time? So the difference was 0.5. And finally, number four, the numbers were in descending order. They were getting smaller and smaller. So the common difference had to be a negative number, didn't it? If they're getting smaller, you're adding a negative number each time. We, of course, were adding -1.5. Notice I didn't write -1.5. If the numbers are in fraction form, and I said, what's the next number? You give me a fraction. If I say, what's the common difference? You give me a fraction. You only give me a decimal if the original sequence has decimals. Try to stay consistent with the pattern they've created, okay? So here we go. What are we going to do for the problems or the assignment here? All right. I want you to take those four sequences that I've created and simply in question one here, put a big star and write, find the next three numbers. All I want you to do is find the next three numbers in that sequence. Find the next three numbers in that sequence. That's all you've got to do in our first assignment here. All right, so here we go. Obviously, we've already talked about the pattern. So if number 1, 2, 5, 8, 11, 14, what are the next three numbers? Well, if you keep adding 3, do you agree we'd get 17, 20, 23? Done. Piece of cake. What if I looked at sequence number 2, pattern recognition, and said, uh-oh, what's the next three numbers? Remember, we were adding -5 each time, weren't we? So if that's -1, -6, what would the next number be? And then the next, and then the next. Would you agree it'd be what? -11. Then we're going to add -5 again and get -16. Add -5 again and get what? -21. Big deal. Common sense is all we're using. Number 3. The numbers are getting bigger and bigger, and I'm adding 0.5 each time. Agreed? So if the last number we left off with was 3.5, and I add 0.5, I'd get 4. Add 0.5 again, 4.5. Add 0.5 again, and get 5. And it looks like that. Of course, I could keep going forever if it was an infinite sequence. Now, careful, number 4. Aren't we adding -1.5 each time? So if we left off at -1.5, wouldn't the next number be what? Think with me. Wouldn't it be -3? Then add -1.5 to that. That'd be what? -4.5. Got to give me a fraction. And add -1.5 to that and get -6. So if I give you a sequence, the first question I could ask is go ahead and find the next three numbers, and that shouldn't be a problem if you recognize the arithmetic sequence's common difference. The other thing we ask in this section, oh boy, here we go. Ready? Let's start with sequence number 1. Now, it's already on your paper, but I'm writing it again since I flipped my paper over. The one that said 2, 5, 8, 11, 14. What if I said, hey, guys, what's the 17th number? Okay, listen to me carefully. I hope you're watching the notes and listening with me because we're almost done here. I don't want you to write out all 17 of them. Some kids say, oh, he wants the 17th number. I got to write out 17 of those numbers. No, do not write 17 numbers down. Because, guys, I could have said, what's the 117th number? And you sure don't want to write 117 numbers down just to find the 117th number. Obviously, to find the 17th number or the 28th number or the 53rd number, there must be an important formula we've got to remember. So on your paper, put a big star and make a box. And in this box is our first critical formula of our new chapter here. If I've ever got an arithmetic sequence and I can tell what the common difference is, to find the 17th number or the 18th number or the 50th number, we use this formula. So write this down in the box. It says A sub n equals A sub 1 plus parentheses n minus 1 times d. Write that down on your paper. A sub n equals A sub 1 plus parentheses n minus 1 times d. Now that sounds and looks horrible. Guys, watch how simple that is. When they say A sub n, that just means you're finding the nth number of that sequence. Didn't we want to know what's the 17th number? So that's A sub 17. My n would be 17. If I would have said, what's the 28th number? This would have been A sub 28. It would have been the 28th number we were seeking. And n would have been 28. Okay? So watch how easy this really is. Ignore the next problem and let's look at this guy. I want to know the 17th number, don't I? So this formula would say A sub 17, the 17th number will equal, well, obviously, A sub 1 is what? The first number of the sequence. It says A sub 1, the first number. Well, let's look. What is the first number? 2 plus parentheses. It says n minus 1. Well, didn't we just say n was 17 because I was looking for the 17th number? So it was A sub 17. So this n is 17 minus 1 times, and that parenthesis is dot connected to D, which stands for what? The common difference. Well, remember, what was I adding each time to get the next number? Wasn't I adding 3? So the difference of this sequence was 3. We'd already mentioned that. So 3 goes in for the letter D. And now careful, as long as you follow order of operations, it's simple little math here. Always do what's in parentheses first. So I've got 2 plus, obviously 17 minus 1 is 16 times 3. Okay, listen to me. Don't you dare add 2 plus 16 and get 18 and then times that by 3. What does order of operations say? It says always read the problem from left to right, but multiply before you ever add. Remember PEMDAS? Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. So guys, on order of operations here, leave the plus sign alone. Always multiply first. 16 times 3 is 48. And 2 plus 48. Oh my gosh, I'll be darned. If I said, quick, what's the 17th number? The 17th number would be 50. So let's try one more to make sure we can use that formula. Number 2, go back to that sequence. 19, 14, 9, 4, etc. What's the 20th number? I don't know about you, but I sure don't want to write out 16 more numbers just to figure out what the 20th number is. I'm going to go to this critical formula that I've got here in my notes, okay? A sub n. Okay, I'm looking for the 20th number, aren't I? So that's what? A sub 20 equals... A1 is the first number. What is my first number here? 19 plus parentheses. Now careful, it says n, doesn't it? Oh, we were looking for the 20th number. So n would be 20 minus 1 times d, the common difference. Now careful. The difference here is not 5. The numbers are getting smaller, aren't they? I'm adding -5 each time. Oh, so -5 is what I put in for the common difference. So doing the simple math, notice no algebra involved. It's just simple math. 19 plus, do what's in parentheses first. What's 20 minus 1? 19 times that -5. Always multiply first, so I got 19 plus. Use your calculator if you need to. I'm going to push 19 times -5 and get -95. So 19 plus -95 is, what is that? -76. Which makes sense, guys, because look, if the numbers are getting smaller, and you're adding -5 each time, wouldn't the next number have been -1, then -6, then -11? They definitely were going bigger and bigger in the negative direction. So by the time I got all the way to the 20th number, -76 makes perfect sense. So 2 goals today. Make sure you recognize the pattern and say to yourself, it's an arithmetic sequence because I'm adding the same number every time. Figure out what that difference is and then use it to find the nth term of that sequence by using that famous formula. So make sure he's highlighted in a box on your notes correctly and use it to do the following homework problems. Okay, you got 3 of them. So at this point, I would go ahead and hit pause on my video if you want. I'm giving you a sequence. 1, 5, 9, ... So I could go forever. And all I want you to do in question A is find the next 3 terms. So try to recognize the pattern and write the next 3 numbers. And then I'll randomly ask in this case, oh, what's the 31st term going to be? Obviously, you're using your formula for that. Number 2, it says 12, 8, 4, 0, ... What are the next 3 terms? And then, oh, what's the 19th term? And then finally, -13, -7, -1, 5. So even though the numbers started negative, they're getting bigger, aren't they? Find the next 3 numbers. And then, oh, by the way, on that one, what would the 16th term be? You do not write them out. You practice using that important formula because that formula will pop up a few times throughout this chapter and you have to get familiar with it, okay? So, since today is what? Thursday the 30th, these 3 problems, actually it'll be 6 answers you're giving me, right? Will be due by tomorrow, Friday, May 1st at noon. Okay, they're not due next Tuesday or Wednesday. At your convenience. Guys, I got to grade 111 papers every day. I need them coming in on time. Have a routine. I'm asking you to watch an 18-minute video and do a 5-minute homework assignment all in one day. Big deal. That's a lot better than sitting in class for 48 minutes and then doing homework later that night. So don't get lazy. Stay with me. We'll get through this last unit together and we'll be in good shape. So this is due tomorrow at noon, okay? Great job. That should make sense. We'll see you then.